Hey there, everybody. Robert Taylor here with Wonderscape Creations, continuing on with a somewhat new video type series. So, from this point on, anything involving Narrative Pro that we make here at Wonderscape Creations, um, we're instead going to just make a single video going over the whole system. That way, those who want to recreate it that don't use Narrative Pro can still do so. They'll just need to pause it to connect the nodes correctly. Um, and for those who don't use Narrative Pro, I do apologize for that. It's just time is short, and spending hour and a half to 3 to 4 hours on a series to walk you guys through something that I have already created is sucking up a lot of time that I need for the development of our games. And the reason for you guys in Narrative Pro that I'm just showing this off is I've created a plugin. I've called it Wonderscape Creations. Link for it is down below. You'll be able to insert it into your plugins folder, and it'll be activated, and you'll have access to everything. For those of you who don't have Narrative Pro, things that don't require Narrative Pro will still work. It's just things that do require Narrative Pro you won't have access to because they are children of things directly within Narrative Pro. And that's what I'm doing to help the Narrative Pro people while still protecting me and Reubs, the developer of Narrative Pro, from having anything stolen that isn't mine. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Excuse me there. I'm going to show this plugin, show off the targeting system, and then go into the explanation of everything that was created. I will preface this before starting that the biggest reason that I made this leap to making this plugin is because I needed to make a ability task which requires the use of C++. I didn't want to have to do a video over C++, especially since I struggle with it. But I needed the task to check and wait for a timer handle to be invalidated before continuing on with the ability. So that those who don't use Narrative Pro, you'll still have access to. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show off the plugin real quick. As you can see, I can lock on. The Redisol is rotating, showing off a cool animation. If I get too far away, it will automatically lock off and end the ability for us. I can swap between targets. And once I kill a target, if there's another target within my array that's close enough, they'll show up. Now there's error right here. Ignore it. That's a Narrative Pro thing. For some reason, I didn't push last night when I was done, so the things that I fixed last night, I had to take care of this morning, and I just haven't touched the Narrative Pro stuff. I guess I didn't push, well, not last night, Saturday night. I guess I didn't push the work. It is what it is, because I reversed the work when I was moving everything to a plugin. But anyways, so first things first, we are going to go over the widget, because there's a bunch of stuff that's required for the ability to work, so we might as well get those things done first. And actually, before we do the widget, there is a plugin that you need to make sure you have enabled. It's called Targeting System. It works very well with the gameplay abilities for the game for gameplay ability system. Yes, it's in beta, but it works just fine. I'm especially using it because now that I have to dive into C++, I'm going to add my own targeting filter task, which we'll go over in a bit to simplify my code even more. Now then, first thing you're going to want to do is create a widget, user widget. It's just a basic old user widget. And I placed an overlay on it and an image. And as you can see, I didn't even name it. It is a variable, but I'm not using it. And I have the texture that I've provided. There's also a material here. I haven't messed with it much. It's supposed to be red. The material itself is showing this as red, but it isn't actually making it red, and I'm currently not 100% sure why. So for the time being, I'm just leaving it as is, and I will mess with that part later. And the reason why it doesn't really matter is if we hop in here, I can just change the color here in the color and opacity. I do eventually want it to where I can control the color. That way when I'm targeting an ally, it's green, neutral, it's yellow, enemy, it's red. That is in the plans in the future. So if we go to the graph, well, actually, before we go to the graph, I made an animation from the whole thing, not just the image, where I have changed the transform's rotation and scale based off of a 5-second time period. And you guys saw that working. So this is what it's doing. You can have it, you can choose to not have it. It's completely and totally up to you. I'm now seeing where my problem is, why it wasn't looking fluid. There we go. Do it just like this. Yeah, there we go. Come over here to the graph. All I have in here is event construct. Bind event to on visibility changed. So I can remove that now because I know it's working. If it equals not hit testable self only, then it's going to play the animation that I made. And I have the number of loops to play is set to 0, so it plays indefinitely. But if it's not that, it's going to stop the animation altogether. Now, obviously, you can have this divisible if you so choose. It's completely and totally up to you how you choose to do that. That's all you need for the widget. The next thing we need to do is, with that new plugin enabled, we can create a data asset called targeting presets. Once you've created it, you're gonna want 3 filters, and in the future this second one will either be replaced or there will be a 4th filter. That way we filter out and only show enemies for instances like this. Anyways, the first thing you want, and there's an order to things. You need to first get a selection and then filter. So we have targeting select task AoE. It's one of the provided ones by the engine. And I'm going by a sphere, physics body, collision profile name. Not sure why it's showing as no collision, but it's working. I can't remember why I put that. Again, it's working, so I'm not going to worry about it. We chose sphere, so we need to come here to sphere and capsule. Radius, we have set to 2000. As you can see, there's a curve table, so you can set a curve table if you would like. So this means the radius is 2,000 meters. This is hard-coded, which is directly affected with this lock-on system, and you'll know where I'm talking about once we get there. Excuse me. Everything else I don't think is necessary. If you want to, you can have a custom component. That way you can have more control over that on the player itself, but it's not something that I have chosen to do. Now for the next one, task actor class. I know that everything I'm going to be targeting with this lock-on system will be a child of my NPC character master. For Narrative Pro users, actually have that open right here. It's a child of BP Narrative NPC. For everyone else, it's whatever your NPC is that a type that you're gonna be fighting. Obviously, you can create an array of them. if you don't have them all under one parent, but we have that. And this is why I need another function so that we can filter by faction as well. Well, not necessarily by faction, but by faction, how the faction feels about your faction. Excuse me. Um, then you can set up ignored actor classes if you want. Because another way to additionally another way to do this, if you don't want to have to filter by faction, is to have 3 children or 2 children, your choice, of BP narrative in NPC, one for enemy and one for non-enemy, and then one that's a companion or whatever if you choose to do it that way. There's many ways you can do the right, and they're all right. Next thing we have here is a sort by distance. So first for filtering to get the specific actors we want, and now we're going to sort them. And they have it sorting by distance. Don't think they have any other sort. No, they don't. And you can use this as to nearest blocking collider. So if there's something blocking it, then it won't add it to the filter. Or I mean, it won't add it to the array that we're going to make. I personally don't care about that. At the moment, anyways. If I run into a situation where it is a problem, then I'll just check mark the box and take care of it. And then you get to choose whether it's from ascending order or descending, meaning from nearest to farthest or farthest to nearest. And then stable sort. So it will be slightly slower, but it will make sure that it is even more accurate when it's sorting by distance. Now, once you have that created, we need to create a blueprint interface. This may not strictly be necessary for those who are not using Narrative Pro, and it may be strictly necessary for those who aren't using Narrative Pro. It depends on how you choose to set this all up. For us, I like using interfaces where I can. I just like them more than seeing the cast node. Cast isn't bad, especially when it's already loaded in memory, but I'd rather not. I just don't like the color of it if I can avoid it. It's an OCD thing. It's fine. Anyways, create the function. I'm getting the lock on actor. And it's not strictly locked on. This is just the data actor, to be honest. Anyways, I named it NPC and I got my NPC character. So make sure that you have this as your NPC enemy character. You need to make sure all of you who are in Narrative Pro, you will need to change this to fit your character because you won't have access to my enemy character. That's in my plugin. So we'll need to hop in here and change this to your NPC, especially even if it's Narrative Pro NPC. So compile and save. The next thing is we need to go into our NPC, wherever we have it. The first thing we want to do is we need to add a widget component. So I attached mine to the mesh because eventually I'm going to have the ability to have the targeting widget on having several targeting widgets. That way, if it's a giant monster, you can swap to the left foot or the right foot or the center part of the snake's body versus the head, things like that. That is planned down the road. So I have it attached to the mesh. The reason I have it attached to the mesh is because then I can parent it to a bone, which then makes things a lot easier. So once you have your widget component attached to the mesh, go ahead and I named mine targeting widget. You can keep it how it's named, or name it targeting widget. And then we will come over here to the right, parent socket, so parent it to roughly where you want it. I have mine on spine underscore 5, but you can place it wherever you want. And then we are going to scroll on down until you find the user interface section. The space we want it as screen, widget class, our widget class that we made. I currently have the draw size to 45. I think it's a little too big, so I'm going to go with 32 and 32. And keep everything else the same. The next thing you want to do is you need to find where you handle your death. For Narrative Pro, it's really easy. There's an event called Handle Death. So you'll want to override it, get the parent, and create a variable called isDead, and you're going to mark it as true. Now, if you have the intention of having enemies or NPCs in general being able to resurrect, you'll want to make sure you remember this. That way you uncheck that when they're resurrected. Otherwise, the targeting system won't target it ever again. So hit compile and save once you have all of that set up. And last but not least, the gameplay lock-on ability. Now, this isn't the only ability that we will be making. We have to, unfortunately, make 2. But it's fine. It works. It does the job correctly. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here and actually explain myself a little bit. I'll leave it like this for now so that you guys can, take a little bit of a look. The order of operations that we want for this is we want to click it. And when we click it, this part will search for the targeting data preset, which we have filled here, and then run all of this. The second time we click it, because we already started this, it will immediately go through this process and clear everything. Now, at any time while it is active, if this tag is ever called next target, then it will run this information. It'll rescan because I can't tell you how many games I've played where I'm fighting a bunch of enemies and there's a new enemy that's nearby to me that isn't part of the array because it joined in after I locked on the first time. So I have to unlock and then lock back in order to get that data. So I'm immediately calling my rescan once to make sure that I have all the enemies that are nearby and fighting us and doing everything that needs to happen. So let's go through this by order of operation here. Well, not order of operation, but order of being placed in the blueprint. Because obviously the order of operation is middle and bottom, or middle, top, bottom type of thing. So let's go ahead and start here. First thing we want is wait input press. This is a normal gameplay ability system function, so it will work. I don't know, for those who don't use Narrative Pro, if there's any additional steps you will need to take. For those using Narrative Pro, you will want to make sure that you have here in the narrative abilities the input tag narrative.input.lockon. Obviously, you won't have that one yet, so make sure you select it. At the end of this, I'll show you where to place it all. After that, we want to make a custom ability called automatic end, because there will be instances where we don't end it ourselves. You'll want to create a lock-on timer handle and then find this clear and invalidate timer handle. at which point we will be wait for timer invalid. This is the one that I made. It will check every 0.05 seconds until it is officially cleared. Then this will stop checking and it will continue. We have another one called rescan timer handle, which I have set so every 5 seconds it goes off rescanning the area. Optional, of course. You don't even have to use that part if you don't want. Which one I'll clear and invalidate and wait again, 0.05 seconds. And then I will be setting widget visibility. So this one is a function we need to make right now. You're not going to find it. So let's go ahead and open it. I'm going to open it for you. And here's what I have right here. Set widget visibility. So we get our current target. So you'll need to create a current target. The type being your NPC character. You'll pull out and you'll get your widget, whatever you named it. Remember, it's just the component. It's not the widget itself, the component that's holding the widget. And then we need to get the widget. Once we have the widget, we need to pull out of there and set visibility and plug that into the input of the set widget visibility function. Now, once you've done that, go ahead and plug that in here, and we're going to change it to collapsed. Our current target, we will make empty. Our hostile array, which is an array of our player characters. So you'll want to go ahead and make that. We want to clear that. And this isn't needed anymore. Let me find where that's set, because these are the only two places that it's at. Go. And endability. Now, some of you may be wondering why I needed to make this wait. And here's why. When you clear and invalidate a timer by handle, it puts it into a queue. And endability is really fast. Like, it calls the millisecond, the very frame that you have this set. Which means if this didn't happen to actually clear completely by the time the ability ends, then the ability technically ends, but it will never activate again because you're locked in because of the timer never being fully invalidated. Technically speaking, there is one called wait delay that you can use, but there are instances where when I'm spamming it, I know you're not actually ever going to be spamming your the lock on and lock off of targeting, that you could get stuck in the ability as well. So I wanted to just completely remove that issue, which I did. Now, out of the wait input press, the top exec output, we want to pull out of there, and we want to search for perform targeting. I believe that'll just show up. Yeah. Perform targeting async function. And once you do that, you'll want to go ahead and create a targeting preset called targeting data preset, and then put in, compile and save and put in the targeting preset that we made. This way, if you make a child of it for a different reason, you can change the filtering options for that. Makes it real easy. You'll then want to get avatar actor from actor info and plug that into source actor. After that, you need to get the targeting subsystem, to which you will pull out of it and get targeting results actors. And the targeting handle will be right here. As you can see, targeting handle. And then I have this set for searching for all, it'll give us all the targets. So every NPC is now in here. I have this set because eventually I'm going to have a child of this that will only target the allies, for targeting healing effects and buffs and things like that. So I'm preparing for the future. At which point I'll go into a branch and check to see if it's empty. If it's empty, just end the ability. If it's not, it's time for us to go through a loop. To which right now we're filtering the hostiles. So we're going to open this up. And here at the very beginning of it is where we are going to get lock-on actors. And this is the interface that we made a little while ago. If you choose not to use the interface, then you'll need to cast to your NPC character at this point. I then create a local variable called local hostile. I'll get the hostile array and search for it. Make sure I don't already have it in the array. If I do, nothing's going to happen. If I don't, I want to get the actor factions and get the avatar actor from actor info to get my character's actor factions, to then get narrative game state, to call the function get factions attitude towards factions. And I'll plug, the source in is the player, the target is the enemy. Now, the reason this is really cool, say the NPC has 5 factions and you have 5 factions that are attached to you. As long as one of them is hostile towards you, it will come back as hostile. Which means we can lock onto it. If it's true, if it's false, do nothing. If it's true, we need to check to see if it's dead. And this is why we needed the get lock on target or casting to it. Target is dead. True, do nothing, because we don't want it in the array. We don't want to lock on to dead bodies. Unless you're doing some necromancy stuff, then have fun with that. False, then we need to add unique. Okay. Once all of this is done and it's gone through all of the targets, we're going to clear the targets because we don't need to hold on to information that isn't necessary. Next, we're going to pull out our hostiles here and find closest target, which is another array. Or, yeah, it's another array here. This is a lot of math. If you recall the when we created our targeting preset, we're sorting everything by distance. But the distance doesn't stay the same indefinitely because you're going to move around. The NPCs are going to move around. So you need the ability to sort through all that. So anytime we are getting the distance, getting a new target, we run through this loop. So make sure you get a local variable I called local closest distance and set it to a ridiculously high number. And then the NPC hostiles I'll plug into the for each loop. The first thing we're going to do is current target. Does it equal our current target? Then we don't want to do anything because if we're swapping targets, we don't want to be locked onto the same target. If it's false, then we need a branch to which we are going to get distance to. So first things first is get actor from actor info to get the owner to get distance. Technically speaking, actually, I think you can just plug that in if you want. And I may change that in the future. But anyways, get distance to. other actor, which is the array element. Now we're going to see if the get distance to is greater than the local closest distance. And because at the very beginning we set it to this ridiculously high number, the local closest distance is going to be much, much, much bigger, which means it's going to be true. To which point I'm going to set the local current closest target and set the local closest distance and run through the to the next loop. So it will always get smaller and smaller and smaller until it finds the closest or next closest target. To which we then complete it and continue on. Now, if you aren't wanting this functionality, you want to be able to just cycle through all of your enemies, because this will not allow you to cycle through all of your enemies. You'll need to create a function that just goes to the next one instead. And then once it gets to the max array, it jumps down to the last one, to the first one, and just keep that cycle going. I may add that functionality in the future so that it can be chosen between, but for now, it's just not what I'm doing, because for now, it's not what I need. And then once it's done, complete, local current target, set the current target, and just in case I need it in the future, closest target is returned. As you can see right now, I don't need it. And now we get our set widget visibility, which, if you recall, gets the widget of our current target, and I have it set to not hit testable self only. And again, remember, I set it that way because I have the animation setting up based only on if it's set to not hit testable. If you change yours to visible, then you can set it to visible. If you don't have the animation, then it can be anything that's visible. It's really up to you. And then we set a timer. So set timer by event. I gave it 0.016 seconds is looping, and we need to create an event called custom tick. The reason I have it set to 0.016 is that is 60 frames per second, according to what I could find online. So this is what will keep it smooth. Obviously, you can make it happen less frequently, which would make it less smooth, but it's completely and totally up to you. You choose how you want this. Trust me, if you put it at 1 second, it's going to look laggy like nothing else. The next thing we want to do is that lock-on timer handle that we made earlier. We want to set it. And then another set timer by event. I had this set at 5 seconds. Looping. Create event called rescan for enemies. And rescan timer handle. Now, before we jump on to the third portion of this, we're going to go ahead and take care of our timers. So, custom tick, close enough to target. Let's go ahead and open this. This is what I made. First thing you want to do is we want to set this to pure. We're going to get actor info to get the player controller, get distance to current target, and if it's greater than 2000, clear it. If you recall, I have it set to 2000 because I have the capsule set to, not capsule, the sphere set to 2000. So I intentionally have these at the exact same number. You don't have to. I just choose to have it that way. Now let's head back into here. And now it just checks that. If it is greater than the 2000, it does automatic end, which if you recall, we set here at the very beginning, so it goes through the ending ability process. If not, we need to set lock on controller rotation. Open this up. A little bit of complicated math here, but it works. And It's only on while you're doing things with the lock-on ability. Set lock-on control rotation. There's nothing special about it. First thing we want to do is get actor info, break it to get the player controller, and then from there set control rotation. Pull out of new rotation and look for R interp 2. For delta time, pull out and get world delta seconds. And interp speed, you can make it as fast or as slow as you want. If you go past 10, then it's going to just immediately sharply turn the camera in that direction, which may not be what you're looking for. I like the smoother glide, which is why I have it set to 2. 1 seems a little slow for me, but it might work for you. You can go below 1. Just find what works best for you in your game. The next thing we need to do is search for find look at rotation. If you can't find that when you pull out a target, then ignore that, because we're now going to go from left to right instead of right to left. Now we need to get the actor info again to get the player controller from the ability actor info structure, to which we will get control rotation, and we'll get actor location. Now out of get control rotation, you'll plug it directly into the R interp 2 current. Get actor location, you'll pull out and add it to the start for find look at rotation. Then we want to get the current target, get actor location. Oh, no, we don't need that node. Get the targeting widget so we can get the world location of the targeting widget, because otherwise we're not going to be looking at the widget location itself. I tested it when I made the target like 100 feet tall. It was staring at their feet instead of up at the widget. So this way we're getting the widget. This is me planning for when I have a giant that I'm fighting. And then we're going to break the vector. And from the Z, we're going to subtract 50. And the reason we're doing this is when we get up close and personal to the target, the camera was putting us in a very awkward angle. It was essentially having us look up at the target. So we were essentially at the feet of our character. Another way to combat that is to get actor location and do this vector break on this. That way we're setting it based off of, say, their chest instead of their feet, because that's what it's doing right now. Again, something I may change in the future. Plug into find look at rotation target and plug that into the target. And that is everything for the set lock on control rotation. To which we'll then get the current target, see if they're dead. If it's false, we're going to do nothing. It's just going to stop doing anything and just keep on tracking. Once it's true, we're going to rescan. So at this point, we will quickly jump over to the rescan timer that we made earlier, because it's used here as well. And all it's doing is we are again performing targeting async action. So we're essentially doing this part over again. Excuse me. I could technically replace this part right here, where I'm doing it right here. And I may do that in the future. Now, once we've plugged it in, on the completed is where we want this one. At which point we're going to check, is the last index 0, meaning the character is dead, we've rescanned, there's nothing else, and the last index is still our dead character. True, automatic end, so that it breaks the lock on. If it's now false because we added a new character, we will set widget visibility to collapsed, remove the current target, search for the next closest target, and then set the widget visibility to not hit testable self only. Now again, for the rescan timer, rescan for enemies, it's literally a macro that I made because you can't have a wait function in a function because functions work on do their thing within one frame, whereas a wait, the continue portion happens in one frame, but the completed stuff might not happen until the next frame. Now then, that's almost everything. Final thing we need to do in this ability is after perform targeting async action, you pull out into wait gameplay tag add, and we are waiting for the next target option. So you need to create this tag, have it applied, only trigger once. We want to make sure it stays false, and once added, we first rescan. That way, if an enemy was added and it hasn't been 5 seconds yet, but the next closest enemy is the enemy that's been added, it will make sure that it adds it to the array. And it will first, again, check to make sure that this lock-on timer handle is both valid and is greater, the last index is greater than 0. If that's true, it will collapse the widget, find closest target, set widget visibility. This I'll likely put into its own function because this is in 2 separate locations. And that's everything we need to do in the lock-on ability. Now, there is one more ability we have to make. And the reason we have to make it is because we can't have the functionality of... we have the functionality for going to the next character in here, but we can't call this functionality in here. Because the wait input pressed waits for the input press of the same input, which has to be an enhanced input. It can't just be a debug input. It waits for the exact same input to be pressed, and even then, we'll only wait for it once. You can't press it multiple times and get the same thing to happen. This is a one-time instance. So we need an ability that will add a tag real quick that will activate this part, which will then, after it's added the tag, will remove the tag. That way, as we continue to cycle, it adds, removes, adds, removes. That way it keeps on swapping our targets. So you need to create another gameplay ability. And I named mine next target. And attached to event activate gameplay activate ability, the parent, I add loose gameplay tag. I'll get the actor, the avatar actor from actor info and plug that in there. Out of gameplay tags, I'll pull out and look for make gameplay tag containers from array. Then I'll pull out of there for make array and add next target. And then I will immediately end the ability, which will then do this portion to remove the loose gameplay tag, to which now everything will work. Now then, this remainder part of it is 100% Narrative Pro only. Well, not necessarily. Where we place things will be Narrative Pro only. Where you place it, if you're not using Narrative Pro, is based on your own system. So what we need to do now is make sure that the abilities, both of them, are added to the player, and that we have for both of our abilities, because I also did it here just in case. I don't strictly know if it's needed or not. Oh, nope, it's not, because I don't have it. You need to set the input tag for your key bindings. Excuse me. Now, I'm not going to go through the enhanced input stuff because you should know how to do that. The Narrative Pro stuff is a little unique. So let's go ahead. I'm going to pause real quick and pull those things up so that we can get them added. Okay, so in 2.1, Narrative Pro has gone ahead and added input support for to use gameplay tags instead of being stuck on an enum. So that's what we're using. You need to make sure that you create a data asset or duplicate the one that Narrative Pro uses, which I would recommend. It's a lot easier. But it needs to be narrative ability input mapping. And you'll need to make sure that you put your input action for lock on and input action for the next target in here. Now, again, if you're doing previous and next, you'll need to actually have two of them, and you would need to have an additional ability. Anyways, and you'll need to make sure you have the tags associated with the ability on here. You'll need to make sure you add these to your, what's it called? To your mapping context. I have my own mapping context. For me, just so you guys are aware, for lock on, I'm using the middle mouse button click. And for next target, I'm cycling with the wheel. I'm not going between first person and third person, so I removed the wheel functionality to move between the two points of view. So if you are keeping that those points of view, you need to decide whether you're going to move how that which keys are used for the point of view and which keys are used for changing the target. Now, once you have these set, we need to go into our player controller actor. If you're in not actor, yeah, controller master. So your player controller for you guys in Narrative Pro, because here we have, if you scroll down far enough, you'll have ability system, ability input mappings, and you'll need to set yours right here. Now, once we have that taken care of, we need to jump into our player's definition, and you'll need to open up your ability configuration. I'm still using the default. That'll be changing this week or next. And you need to add the lock on and the next target to the default abilities. And once you've done all that and you save, then when you hop on in, everything's working as it should. So that's everything for the targeting system. The crazy thing is, it still took 47 minutes, and it would have been immensely longer if I was doing a follow-along. So thank you guys so much for watching. By the time this video is uploaded, the plugin will be uploaded as well, and you will be able to work with the system. Thanks again.